The morning was like any other for Emily as she sat on the edge of her bed, lost in thought. She often wondered what life would have been like if she had a complete family like other people. She had never met her father, but her mother, Margaret, never let a day pass without reminding her of the man who abandoned them. Suddenly, her mother's sharp voice came from the backyard. "Emily, are you going to sit there all day? Come and help me with these clothes before I break my back." "I'm coming, Mom," Emily replied, quickly wiping her tears. She made her way to the backyard, where Margaret was sorting through a pile of laundry. Her mother's face was always tense, making her look older than she was, even though she was only in her late 30s. Life had been hard on her, and she made sure Emily felt the weight of it. "You are so slow, just like your father," Margaret complained as Emily picked up the clothes. Emily frowned. "Why do you always bring him up, Mom? I don't even know him." "And you never will," Margaret snapped. "He's a selfish man who ruined my life and ran away. I gave up everything to raise you, don't think for a second that I let you forget that." Emily said nothing. Their conversations always ended this way, with her mother reminding her of all she had lost. She understood that Margaret's bitterness came from years of struggling alone, but that didn't make the constant accusations any easier to bear. She had simply learned to endure them. As Emily grew older, she began attracting attention from men in their small town. At 23, she was beautiful and had a kind personality that made people gravitate toward her. The first man to express interest in her was Mark, the son of a local carpenter. He was shy but sincere, and Emily liked him right away. One evening, Mark knocked on their door. Margaret opened it, and her expression turned cold. "Yes. What do you want?" "Good evening, ma'am. I'm Mark. I would like to speak to Emily." Margaret's eyes narrowed. "What business do you have with my daughter?" Mark shifted nervously. I like her, ma'am. I was hoping to get to know her better." Margaret stared at him for a long moment before stepping outside and shutting the door behind her. "Listen to me, boy," she said firmly. "Emily is not the kind of girl you want to be with. She's lazy, disrespectful, and has no future. If you're looking for a wife, look elsewhere." Mark was taken aback. "But ma'am, that's not true. Emily is." "Don't argue with me," Margaret cut him off. "I'm her mother. I know her better than anyone. She will only bring you trouble. Now, leave my house." Mark left, confused and hurt. Later, when Emily noticed he was avoiding her, she confronted him. He hesitated before finally telling her the truth. "Your mother said, she said you're not ready for marriage. She told me you're not wife material." Emily's face burned with humiliation. That night, she confronted her mother. "Why would you say that to Mark? Why would you lie about me?" Margaret didn't even look up from the clothes she was folding. "He's not good enough for you, period. I'm saving you from making the same mistakes I did." Emily couldn't believe what she was hearing. "By ruining my reputation. You're not protecting me, Mom, you're controlling and destroying me." Margaret stood up, her eyes blazing with anger. "Don't you dare raise your voice at me. I gave up my life for you, and this is how you thank me? By running after men." Emily stormed out of the room, hot tears streaming down her face. But it wasn't just Mark. Every time a man showed interest in Emily, Margaret found a way to drive him away. When Paul, a schoolteacher, came to visit, Margaret told him that Emily was irresponsible and couldn't even keep a house clean. When Eric, a businessman, expressed his feelings, she warned him that Emily was too ambitious and would never make a good wife. With each passing year, Emily's frustration grew. Her mother's interference made her feel trapped, like she would never be allowed to have a life of her own. One evening, she decided to speak up again. "Mom, I'm not a child anymore. I want to get married. I want a family." Margaret's face darkened. "A family? Do you know what it's like to raise a child alone? To have your dreams crushed because of some man? No, Emily. I won't let you throw your life away." "But I'm not you," Emily protested. "I won't make the same mistakes. Why can't you just let me be happy?" "Because happiness is a lie," Margaret screamed. "Men will promise you the world and leave you with nothing, just like your father did to me." The room fell silent. Emily stared at her mother, realizing that no matter what she said, Margaret would never let go of her bitterness. It was useless. The breaking point came a few months later when Emily met Daniel, a kind-hearted engineer who was different from the others. He didn't back down when Margaret tried to intimidate him at first, but eventually, even he couldn't withstand her relentless attacks. "I can't do this, Emily," Daniel said one night after Margaret had accused him to his face of being a liar and a cheat. "Your mother is impossible." Emily watched him walk away, and her heart broke into pieces. That night, she decided she was done. She packed her things and stood in the doorway with her bag. "I'm leaving, Mom," she said. Margaret looked up from her chair, startled. "What are you talking about? I can't live like this anymore. You have ruined every chance I had at happiness. I'm done." "Fine," Margaret said coldly. "Go. But don't come crying to me when the world chews you up and spits you out." Emily didn't reply. She simply walked out the door and didn't look back. She moved to the city and found a job as a receptionist at an engineering firm. For the first time in her life, Emily felt free. She made friends, explored her interests, and gradually started to build the life she had always dreamed of. Meanwhile, it had been over 2 decades since Thomas walked out of Margaret's life. He was Margaret's childhood love and Emily's long-lost father. He had left the country in search of a better life right after Margaret got pregnant. But things hadn't gone as planned, and he lost contact with her. Even after all those years, he still remembered Margaret and longed for a chance to make things right, not just with her, but with their child as well. After weeks of searching for Margaret, he finally arrived at her doorstep. The moment she saw him, she froze. The man who had abandoned her and Emily was standing in front of her. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. Then, gathering his courage, Thomas finally said, "Margaret, I know I don't deserve this, but I've come to ask for your forgiveness." Margaret narrowed her eyes. "Forgiveness? After all these years? After everything you did?" Thomas lowered his head in shame. "I was a fool. I left because I thought I could build a better life for us, but I failed, Margaret. And I've regretted it every single day." Margaret stared at him, a storm of emotion swirling in her chest. But then an idea formed in her mind. She had to keep Emily away from him. "The child didn't survive," she said, forcing her voice to stay steady. "I lost her after you left." Thomas' face crumpled, and tears rolled down his cheeks. No, Margaret. I didn't know. I am so sorry. I should never have left. You have no idea what I went through," Margaret cried. "Giving birth alone, then losing her." Thomas dropped to his knees. "I will make it up to you. I will spend the rest of my life making it right. Please, Margaret, let me stay. Let me be with you again." Margaret hesitated, then finally nodded. "Fine. But you have to prove yourself, Thomas. I can't trust you so easily." Meanwhile, Emily was thriving in her new life in the city. She had moved on, happy with her independence, until she received an unexpected call from a childhood friend. "Emily, you won't believe this," her friend said over the phone, laughing. "Your mother is acting like a young girl again. Some man showed up, and now she's walking around the market like she's 20 years old." Emily's blood boiled. Her mother was with a man. After everything she had done. After ruining every chance Emily had with good men, Margaret thought she could just move on and enjoy her own life. Never. Furious, Emily decided to return to her mother's town. She was determined to destroy Margaret's newfound happiness, to make her feel the same loneliness and heartbreak she had caused her. When Emily arrived, she saw a man preparing to leave her mother's house. Hiding behind a tree, she watched as he kissed Margaret on the cheek before walking away. Her stomach twisted with anger. She couldn't let this happen. After the man left, Emily stormed inside. "So, you think you deserve happiness after ruining my life?" she spat, her voice trembling with rage. Margaret was startled. "Emily, what are you talking about? You drove away every man who ever loved me," Emily shouted. "And now you think you can have a man for yourself?" Margaret's face hardened. "You don't understand. I have been through more pain than you can imagine." Emily's hands clenched into fists. "You don't deserve happiness, and you will never be happy. I'll make sure of that." Margaret couldn't bear to hear her daughter threaten her, and before she could stop herself, she lunged at Emily, ready to beat her just like she had done before. Emily reacted before she could think. In a fit of rage, she shoved Margaret, sending her crashing against the wall. Within seconds, Margaret collapsed to the floor, motionless. Emily froze in shock. She hadn't meant to hurt her mother, certainly not like this. Panic took over as she stood there, staring at Margaret's lifeless body. Her mind raced. No one had seen her enter the house. Without wasting any more time, she sneaked out and fled back to the city. Soon, the news spread like wildfire. Margaret had been found dead in her home. People assumed she must have slipped and fallen. Thomas was inconsolable. Just when he thought he could make up for all the lost time, she was gone forever. He arranged a small burial for Margaret and spent his days brooding in her empty house, overwhelmed with grief. Emily refused to return. The thought of facing the consequences of her actions was unbearable. But one day, she finally gathered the courage to visit the house she had grown up in. When she arrived that afternoon, she saw Thomas sitting in the living room. The sight of him stunned her. He was the same man she had seen kissing her mother that day. She had no idea who he really was, and no one in the town knew his true identity either. Forcing a calm smile, she introduced herself as a concerned neighbor and expressed her condolences. She exaggerated how much Margaret's death had affected her, claiming she hadn't been able to return sooner because of work commitments. At first, Thomas barely paid attention to her words. But when Emily began reminiscing about fond memories of Margaret, he became intrigued. Seeing someone who had shared a bond with Margaret brought him unexpected comfort. Soon, he found himself laughing with Emily and exchanging stories. Emily started visiting more often, bringing him meals and keeping him company. The grief-stricken man, who had spent years regretting his past, found solace in her presence. And Emily, filled with resentment toward her mother, felt no guilt over what she was doing. In her mind, this was justice, payback for all Margaret had put her through. As the days passed, their bond grew deeper. Then, one night, after an emotional conversation about loss and regrets, they kissed. It should have stopped there, but it didn't. Their relationship turned into something forbidden, something neither of them had expected. Weeks later, Emily discovered she was pregnant. At first, she felt victorious, knowing she had finally gotten what she wanted. When she shared the news with Thomas, he was overjoyed. He saw this as his second chance at fatherhood, a chance to do things right this time. One day, Emily returned to her mother's house, stepping into Margaret's room for the first time since she had left. As she sifted through an old shelf, she stumbled upon a letter in Margaret's handwriting. It was addressed to Thomas, but it had never been sent. Her hands trembled as she unfolded the letter and read, "Thomas, I hope you are happy wherever you are, knowing that you abandoned me and our daughter. I hate you deeply, and I don't know if I can ever forgive you. Even if you ever return, I will make sure I keep her away from you. I am sorry, but she has to pay for all your sins. After all, she's your blood." Emily's breath caught in her throat. Her heart pounded as the horrifying truth sank in. Thomas was her father. Her mind spun, unable to grasp what she had just read. She staggered back, gasping for air. She had spent her whole life hating her mother, seeking revenge, only to end up destroying everything. She had unknowingly killed her own mother, taken her father as a lover, and now carried his child. The weight of her actions was unbearable. She couldn't tell Thomas the truth, it would destroy him. There was only one thing left to do. That evening, she left a note on the kitchen table and disappeared into the night. "I am sorry for everything. I have made mistakes I can't fix. Take care of yourself and never look back." When Thomas returned home that evening, he found the note. Confusion and devastation crashed over him. He couldn't understand why Emily had left so suddenly. Had he done something wrong? With Emily gone, his world crumbled once again. He had lost Margaret, and now, the only person who had brought light into his life had vanished too. The unanswered questions tormented him. He searched for her everywhere, asking around the village, traveling to nearby towns, even going to the city in hopes that someone had seen her. But Emily had disappeared without a trace. His past mistakes haunted him, and guilt consumed him. It felt like he was being punished for abandoning Margaret and their daughter all those years ago. And now, he had lost Emily and their unborn child, just like that. One evening, Thomas sat alone in Margaret's small house, staring at the empty chair where she used to sit. The house was filled with memories, of Margaret, of Emily, of the life he could have had with them. He visited the house regularly, unable to let go of the past. One day, while going through Margaret's belongings, he stumbled upon an old journal hidden at the back of a drawer. The worn-out pages were filled with Margaret's neat handwriting. As he read through the entries, his heart sank. She had written about the struggles she faced after he left, her growing bitterness, and the desperate lengths she went to in order to control their daughter. But one entry made his blood run cold. "Emily will never know the truth. She still thinks her father abandoned us, and I will let her continue to believe it. If she knew he returned and that I lied, it would ruin everything." Thomas' hands trembled. The full weight of Margaret's deception hit him all at once. Emily was alive. She had always been alive. And Emily, the woman he had loved, was his daughter. "No, no!" Thomas shouted, the journal slipping from his grasp. He staggered to his feet, his mind reeling. The memories of their time together, the conversations, the closeness, the intimate moments, rushed back in horrifying detail. For days, he was consumed by shame and despair. He couldn't eat. He couldn't sleep. The knowledge of what had happened between them was unbearable. But he couldn't just let it end like this. He had to find Emily. He had to face her. Months later, his search finally led him to a distant town. She was living in a shared apartment, working at a local clinic. Her pregnancy was now visible. When she saw him standing at the door, her face turned pale. "What are you doing here?" she whispered. Thomas swallowed hard. "I know the truth, Emily. I know who you are. I know what happened." Emily froze. For a long moment, she didn't say a word. Then, suddenly, she turned away, burying her face in her hands as tears streamed down her cheeks. "I didn't know," she sobbed. "I didn't know you were my father until it was too late." Thomas' voice broke. "And I didn't know you were my daughter either," he said. "I came back to find you and your mother, to make things right. But Margaret lied to me. She told me you were dead." Emily let out a bitter laugh. "She lied to both of us. She ruined my life. She drove away every man who ever loved me. And when I found out about you and her, I wanted revenge. I wanted her to feel the same pain I felt." Thomas stepped closer, his voice barely above a whisper. "And now? What do you feel now, Emily?" She turned to face him, tears spilling down her face. Her voice trembled. "I feel lost. I don't know how to fix this. I don't know how to live with what we've done." Thomas stayed in the town with Emily, determined to support her through the difficult times ahead. Though they rarely spoke about their past, there was an unspoken agreement between them: they would do whatever it took to protect the unborn child. He found work at a nearby factory and took on the responsibility of supporting Emily financially. When people in the town asked about their relationship, he simply told them he was an old family friend helping a single mother. But as the months passed, Thomas' health began to decline. The stress and guilt from the past weighed heavily on him, and he developed a persistent cough that refused to go away. He ignored Emily's concerns and refused to see a doctor, focusing instead on making sure that she and the baby would have a stable future. When the baby was finally born, a little girl, Thomas held her in his arms, his eyes filled with emotion. "You are my second chance," he whispered. "As long as I'm here, I promise to give you the life I couldn't give your mother." True to his word, Thomas remained by Emily's side, helping her care for their daughter. He was ever present, determined to make up for the years he had lost. But just a few months later, he passed away quietly in his sleep. Emily mourned Thomas deeply. His loss was another wound on her heart, but she vowed to honor his memory by being the best mother she could be. She was determined to break the cycle of pain and bitterness that had haunted their family for so long. She would raise her daughter with love, free from the burdens of the past.